start, but he was obviously very intoxicated. And he's asking about what we're doing because it's obvious we're doing something with a
Right.
tandem bicycle and a trailer and everything else. And so we're letting him know. And I'm kind of like looking over at Bruce, like, I don't know about this guy. And all of a sudden he leans in and he says, you know, I've seen Bigfoot.
Spotlight, be my witness. Only light left in the sky. Shouting hallelujah to that podcast in the night. You get your awesome stories and your midlife crisis too. Say the world got saved, y'all, when they added something new.
Hello and welcome to the second episode of Califorgilicious Spotlight. And this week is very special, not only because we have the second episode, but also Califorgilicious is turning 2 this Sunday. So make sure to check out the new Birthday Bonanza episode, which is going to be released on Sunday, of course. And I think this is the time when I should say subscribe and all, but thank you. Let me show you my studio audience. See, nothing. It's just a sound because I wanted to look for a clip actually with people, clapping and cheering for me. But I found this website and I found a clip, and this is how much it costs. So it's like more than 4,000 euros for a 10-second clip. Jesus. That's why the guest is Teri Brown, who is an author, and she did something amazing. She biked through the United States. And I think we had an extremely nice, intimate, and interesting conversation with Teri. I think we could connect on different levels. One of them being that travel can really lead to self-discovery, and she's had her own past and her own tragedies, so to say, and I did have mine as well, but we talked about how these can launch into your self-discovery, travel, what happened to Montana, and what about Bigfoot. Before we begin, let me show you something again. And again, thank you for watching and subscribing. And ladies and gentlemen, Teri Brown. Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Califorgilicious Spotlight. Here with me, Teri Brown. Hello Teri, how are you feeling today?
I am doing wonderful, and I'm so glad to be with you today. This is going to be a fun talk.
Oh my, I already got the vibration that it's going to be awesome. And so I did my homework on you. I want to see your face, how you react to whatever I found on you. Okay, is that right? All right.
Go ahead. Let's see what you found.
So you're an let me see that you're an author, right? The
Yeah.
writer of the memoir 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure, very nice title, which follows your 3,000-mile tandem bicycle journey across the United States with your husband, right?
That's correct.
You are also the author of several historical fiction novels, including Sunflowers Beneath the Snow and An Enemy Like Me, and hosts the podcast Online for Authors.
That's right.
And last one that we are going to talk a little bit about this book, of course, the Double-Butted Adventure, because I really dig the title. Maybe about some personal transformation, and yeah, you can give me some advice because I'm a terrible writer, amateur writer. So this is the menu, all right.
Sounds good.
Teri, it seems to me that your adventure started out with sort of like a strong escapism from something that you didn't like,
Yeah.
and this is something what I felt really deeply resonated. Actually, this is why I reached out in the first place to you. I had some personal tragedies, and that's why I decided I go to California. I don't care. I'm from Europe. I went to California, and it turned out to be the biggest journey of my life, personally transforming, blah, blah, blah. So, can you tell me about how you ended up starting this awesome trip?
Yeah, so I had lived in an emotionally abusive relationship for 14 years. And I stayed in it as long as I did because it was my second marriage. So I didn't want to be divorced twice. I had already failed at marriage once. I had four beautiful children with my first husband, but our marriage we just were not compatible. I
Mhm.
remarried and really made a bad choice. He was emotionally abusive. He wasn't a great guy, but I was determined to make it work because who wants to be divorced twice? I just didn't like the label. And in 2017, I finally hit my tipping point and I said, I can't do this anymore. And I got out of that relationship. But just because you leave something really bad doesn't mean you're okay.
Mhm.
So I was still a mess. I mean, I was a crazy person, like I didn't believe in myself. I was very anxious. I could not even make decisions in the grocery store. I would sit there and think, I don't even know what peanut butter to buy. I mean, I was just a mess.
Uh-huh.
I met Bruce. He became my third husband, which is really, we could talk about that for hours because I was never, ever, ever, ever getting married again. And he tells people that he chased me until I caught him. So he just kept being there. He just was there until I finally got used to the fact that he was there and he was who he said he was.
All right.
But while we were,
And what is
yeah,
it?
go ahead.
Because it's really fun. Like how what do we mean by him chasing you until you catch him?
You
Uh,
know, it's a shame we can't ask him. He passed away a year ago from brain cancer, which is, just a whole nother sad story.
right,
But I think what he did was he just kept showing up for me. He just kept being there.
right.
Like I'm here, I am who I say I am, and I'm not gonna go away just because you acted crazy today. And
I
he
see.
just kept being there until I finally recognized he really was the person he said he was.
Right.
And it took me a long time to believe that because I had already been in a relationship that I thought I was getting one person and I got someone else. And I said, I'm not doing that again. But while we were dating, and not even really dating, because I wouldn't even call it dating, because it was like, yeah, I'm not interested in dating. You're a nice person, I'll talk to you, but we're not actually dating. But during all of this, he told me that he had always wanted to ride across the United States on a bicycle. Well, I had been wanting to do something big and bold and adventurous. I wanted to do something that people said to me, there's no way you can do this. Because I thought that I needed to prove to the world that I still had value. Turns out I needed to prove that to me,
Hmm.
but I didn't know that. I thought I needed to show the world. Well, when he said that, I thought, well, that would be a big adventure. And not only that, I had not been on a bicycle in 40 years.
Wow.
So this would be a huge, huge thing that people would tell me, you cannot do this. And so I asked him, are you going to talk about it forever? Or are you going to actually do it?
Nice.
And he said, no, I want to do it. And I said, count me in. Well, he's been a cyclist his entire life and he's good and he can ride, 100 miles a day, day after day after day. And then there's me. And we soon realized that no amount of training was ever going to catch me up to where he was. Like, I
Yeah.
can't do that. And so he suggested a tandem bicycle. And he said, that way I can't go faster than you and you can't go slower than me. We'll
Nice.
have to do it together. And if we don't do it together, neither one of us make it.
This is
And
beautiful.
so that's what we started to do was we started training on this tandem bicycle. Well, I live on the coast of North Carolina, and the coast of North Carolina is flat.
Right.
So I live in one of the highest points in my county at 35 feet above sea level. Okay, so there's not any hills here. So we did a lot of training, about 1,000 miles of training, but not a lot in terms of hills. Every now and then we would take the bike somewhere, but generally speaking, flat. So we head out to Oregon, which is where we got started in Astoria, Oregon. And on day one, we hit mountains.
Okay.
So we're going over a mountain range. And so you can only imagine, like, on day one, I'm thinking, oh, I think we've bit off more than we can chew. But I am, I had a lot of people tell me I couldn't do it. One in particular was my brother. He told me that you can't even walk and chew gum at the same time. There's no way you're making this across the United States. And when I was done with that conversation, I looked at Bruce, my husband, and I said, I don't care if you have to tie me to the bicycle. I am making it across. So there was a little bit of, I'm going to make it, even if it kills me, kind of attitude that I had going on. And yeah, so off we went. Um, it was at the end of the ride where I realized how much I had changed.
Okay. So what was the sort of like the curve, the learning curve inside of you? What made you change?
You have a lot of time on the back of a bicycle. So I'm on the back of the tandem, and that means I'm pedaling, 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 but I don't have to steer, which gives me a lot of time to look around, to kind of absorb and to think. There's a lot of time where it's just pedaling.
Right.
We talk, we listen to music, but we also just think. And all of those thoughts going through my head, the ones about you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you're not capable, all of those things that I had been told, I'm holding it up against the fact that I'm riding across the United States
Mhm.
on a bicycle. Like they don't they don't go together. And so I was able to start taking those thoughts and finding the right place to put them, which was mostly in the trash can. Like I just didn't need those thoughts anymore.
Right.
And I was able to say, okay, I obviously am capable. Look at me. Look at what I'm doing. It wasn't as easy as that, though, because there were many days where I stood on the side of the road and cried.
Right.
Like I can't do it anymore. In fact, the first day is so funny because I'm standing, I don't know, we were maybe 3 or 4 days in. I was tired. This is hard. This is not an easy journey. And it was a hot day, and I don't know, we're just standing on the side of the road taking a break, and I'm sobbing, and Bruce doesn't know what to do with me. We've only been married a year at this point, and he's like, I don't know, what am I supposed to do with this girl? And so he tries to hug me. I tell him, oh, don't touch me. And I'm sobbing. And I'm sure he was thinking to himself, well, that's it. The ride's over. We're going home. I can't imagine that this is going anywhere. But as
Did
soon
you
as I finished,
sorry,
go
did you
ahead.
have any emergency plans? What if, we something happened?
So our emergency plans were we're still in the United States. We live in the United States. We can take a car home. I
Right.
mean, it's not like hospitals don't exist. We're not out in some foreign land, third world country.
Right.
So, we just always assumed that we would either rent a car, get back on a plane, we would do something
I
and we
see,
would
I see, I see.
make our way back home.
So what did Bruce
Um,
do to you when you were
So
sobbing?
he's right. So I'm sobbing. I could just see the look in his eyes. But eventually I quit crying and I said to him, okay, let's get back on the bike. And he kind of looked at me like, I don't understand. And I said, well, we can't stay here. And so I learned something about myself, which is, first of all, I've always known this. I'm very emotional.
Right.
I laugh really loud. I cry really loud. I have a wide range of emotions. And when I am feeling that huge rush of emotion, I have to do something with it.
Right.
And then I can be logical. I cannot be logical while all the emotion is just everywhere. So as soon as I was done crying, I was able to say to myself, okay, so this is a hard spot. And in about an hour, we'll be where we're stopping for the day.
Mhm.
And, you know, we can't stay here. You can't stay on the side of the road. So what is the other option? Well, the other option is let's get on the bike and go. So he learned that when I stood on the side of the road and cried, which I did often, he would just eat. He would grab his little snacks and he would just kind of wait until I was done because he knew that was just my process.
But that was the
That
best
I,
thing to do, no? Like,
yeah,
it's a win-win situation. You're getting out every frustration, like piece of frustration
yep.
out of your body, and he's having, I don't know, like cheese puffs,
Yes, yeah. Yeah, he's eating his little trail mix and he's just kind of
Trail
waiting
mix,
for it to be
exactly.
done because he learned
Yeah,
that I was going to be okay. I needed to get it out. But on the other hand, as we were riding along, I would often do things like say, "Oh, that's the most beautiful thing I have ever seen."
wow.
Right? So it's the same kind of thing where, in order to cry the way I cried, I also experienced joy the way I experienced joy. And so I learned that going across I learned more about me. I learned about how I handle things. And I'm still learning to accept that. I don't really like the fact that I cry. I wish that I didn't. I wish that I could just not do that. But I have learned that without it, I don't function well. And so it's better to go ahead and let it happen and move on. And so I
Yeah,
just started to accept who I was and realize that I was a strong, capable individual who, when she put her mind to something, could achieve whatever she wanted.
yeah. Recently, I've had the same realization that, I mean, I don't want to dramatize things, but it seemed that um, part of my happiness was always put in some other people's hands, right? And when
Yeah,
I realized that I don't know, force to put it back to me, and don't let external factors affect too much, like
right,
my mood,
right,
my and I'm capable. I'm also, this is what I had this nonstop disco in my head. And if you're not dancing, if you're not enjoying, if you're not buying cocktails at the counter, you better not step inside, and
right,
like if you're not on my frequency, and it doesn't mean I'm a dictator, because I'm very emotional as well. I'm very empathetic, or at least this is what I like to believe in. But the thing was, and I think kind of it resonates with your story, is that you have to accept that you can be emotional, and all those negative thoughts from, for example, from my brother, maybe, could just be discarded and you can have a beer
right,
instead, right?
right, right. And I think that's what I began to learn was that this is my story. And
Right.
I don't have to put other people's endings in my story.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have determined what I will and what I won't do, what I can, what I can't do, how I will, how I won't act. And they don't have that, they don't have that right.
Right.
That's for me to decide. That's for me to make a decision. And I think I really, during the time that I lived in the emotionally abusive relationship, I gave a lot of my power away. Um, I didn't mean to, it wasn't a conscious decision, but my power was given to someone else.
Right.
And he definitely abused that. And he made me feel small and incapable and unlovable. And that ride, I realized, wait a minute, it's mine. I get to be capable. I get to be lovable. I get to be smart. I get to be because I am, right? And that's my decision. It's not someone else's decision. And the ride really helped me do that. And I think it helped me because I got way outside of my comfort zone.
I I
This was
think
not
it's
Teri doing Teri, right?
99% of humanity, like this is not the comfort zone of
Right.
billions of people, I guess. Like,
Right, right. And so I think when you push yourself outside of the comfort zone, you start to recognize what you're capable of. When you limit yourself by staying in the nice little box that you've put yourself in, where you know what every day is going to be and you know how everything's going to happen, and you don't ever really test yourself, push yourself, see what you're made of. And for me, getting out of that box and really pushing myself, and not only was it, it's so outside my box. I'm not an athlete in any endeavor, not just cycling, but period. And so to be able to go and do something very athletic, very physically challenging, it was very mentally challenging, day after day after day. I mean, we were out there from the end of June until the 1st of October, all the way across the United States.
wow.
So to do that and then be successful at it, it really did kind of stop me in my tracks. And I recognized I can do anything I put my mind to. It's not a matter of can I do it, but what do I want? And it was at that point that I said, I want to be an author. It's what I've wanted for a long time. And 14 months later, my first novel came out.
Oh,
So,
it happened after the after. So it's
yeah,
revelatory sort of like bike ride in many
it
sense.
was. It truly changed the trajectory of my life.
Amazing.
Marrying Bruce was the first part of that, but that journey is what made me see what he saw. He told me all the time. He said, I already knew you were in there. He said, I could see it. He
Wow.
said, you couldn't, and so this trip helped me find me again. And often people say, oh, the trip changed you. And it was like, I don't think so. I think it helped me find me.
Yeah.
All of those things were there. I just had hidden them, or they had been hidden, covered up, buried by other people's comments and other people's, thoughts about me. And that ride kind of helped me find all of those pieces again and give me the courage to say, I know what I want and I'm going for it.
Were these other people envious of you, or in some sense, or why do you think they would push these negative thoughts, negative comments on you?
Well,
It's
when you have, yeah, so my emotionally abusive husband, I think that he was just he's a narcissist. He needed to be top dog. People are like that. And then I think sometimes people push things on you and they don't even really know they're doing it.
right.
Like why would my brother say that to me? Well, I mean, I grew up, I was a klutzy kid. And in his mind, that's who I am.
Yeah.
And so when I try to step out of what he saw me being, that was maybe uncomfortable for him.
Hmm.
I don't think he did it necessarily to be mean or because he doesn't love me or anything like that. I think it's uncomfortable for people when you try to be something that doesn't fit. And so I don't know if you've ever tried to do something and had someone tell you, that wouldn't be a good idea. But
Basically, that's my
right?
life.
Yeah. So, and it happens a lot, like when people want to start a new business. Oh, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And part of it is fear for you. Part of it is, I don't know,
I-
distress with themselves for not having gone and tried something like that
exactly.
themselves.
I should have
Right?
done it. I should have started
Right.
this.
Right. And so there's all of those things that I don't know that anyone is necessarily doing those things to harm you,
Uh-huh.
but when you walk outside of their definition of what you are or what you can be, then everyone puts the brakes on and tries to tell you, no, oh no, oh no. And if people do that to you long enough, you start to believe it.
Uh-huh.
And you put yourself into the little box and you say, okay, well, this is what I am. And that trip made me realize I get to decide that.
Right.
It's not anybody else's job and
Right.
it's not anyone else's right. Only I get to decide what I am and what I become.
Exactly.
And I still forget it every now and then. I mean, I'm human. There are times where I realize that I'm sitting here going, oh, I don't know that I can. And then it's like, okay, come on, Teri. You rode across the United States on a tandem. What do you want and how are you going to get it?
Yeah. This is definitely one of the biggest gifts of these journeys, and I'm using the word journey here because it's they are not like trips to I don't know, to the beach for sure.
Right.
And what I really loved in your book is the part when you say don't quit on a bad day.
Yeah.
It's so underrated. Like we tend to have this minor drawback in our life, in our everyday life even, and we say, no, damn it, I'm not
No,
gonna,
I can't. I
I
can't
can't.
do it.
This is
Yeah.
not, yeah, this is a sign from some superior being that I should not do. And I say, F that, fuck that, I'm gonna do it anyway, because I know
Right.
I can, and I'm sure you also learned this fact about yourself, that you can take care of yourself, you can rely on yourself, you take
Yeah.
yourself seriously, and you did something. This is how I use my California journey. Actually, this podcast is because of that journey. So I bet that it wasn't like a joyride all the way.
Oh
Was
no, there were some
there
tough
situation?
days.
Yeah, what were the tough days about?
Okay, so one of the toughest days is where the my rule, don't quit on a bad day came from. So we were in Montana And Montana is a huge, huge state. And we were in Montana a long, long time. But on this particular day, we had no choice but to ride 70 miles because where we had stayed the night before and the next town was 70 miles away. There was no alternative. We had to ride 70 miles. And 70 miles on a tandem bicycle is a long, long ride.
Bet.
Okay. We are on a tandem, that's a two-seater, and we're pulling a trailer full of camping gear and we're riding. And we would stay in campgrounds and sometimes in really cheap motels. On this day, it was hot, very hot. The wind was blowing at us instead of behind us. And so everything was harder. It was very hilly. There were no trees for shade. And our rear tire went flat 3 times. So we
Oh,
had to stop and repair a flat tire 3 different times. At the end of that day, so we're pulling into the town that we're going to stay the night in. We stop just inside the city limits. My husband says, I've got to take a break. In the next mile, we stopped 3 times. We were both exhausted.
right.
And we make it to the first motel. And to call it a motel is being kind. It was a horrible little hole in the wall place. All rooms were smoking rooms. I mean, it just, but we couldn't go any further.
Right.
This was it. And across the street was a hamburger joint. So we could stop and get hamburgers and ice cream without having to get back on the bicycle. When we got there, my husband called the bike shop and asked them, like, do you have the tubes and the other things? Because now we're running low. And the guy said, yeah, I'm about 3 miles up the road. And Bruce said, I don't have 3 miles in me.
Hmm.
How much will you charge me to deliver what I need? And the guy was so kind and he just brought it to us. He didn't make us have a delivery charge, which was nice. But I wrote a blog the whole way across. And that day I'm writing my blog and I said, I think this is it.
Uh-huh.
I'm not having fun anymore. This was a horrible, horrible day. I don't know why we're doing this. I think we're going to just call it.
So you hit
I
rock
don't,
bottom there.
yeah, I'm just done. I am so done.
Mm.
And I had a friend reach out to me and she said, Teri, what you have done so far is amazing. You've ridden over 1,000 miles on a tandem bicycle. You made it over the Rocky Mountains. If you quit today, you do not have to hang your head in shame.
Yeah.
However, I would not suggest quitting on a bad day. You will always wonder if you could have made it. Why don't you take a break, take an easy day, think about it, and then if you decide this is not for you, that's fine.
Hmm.
Whatever you decide, I stand with you. She signs off. And I thought about that and I thought, okay, I'll give it a few days. And the next day was a great day. We had the winds behind us. We had a good night's sleep. I mean, everything went really well. And I realized, you shouldn't make decisions when you're tired, when you're hungry, when it's been an awful, terrible, bad day. I make sure people understand I'm not saying don't quit because sometimes quitting is exactly what you should do. I was in a horrible marriage. And quitting that marriage was exactly what needed to happen. There are people who are in jobs that they are so dissatisfied with, and quitting and moving on makes sense. There are people who are in relationships, who live in cities, that don't work for them.
Right.
Quitting is okay, but don't quit when you're angry. Don't quit when you can't think. Don't make sure that you know what you're doing. And that has helped me over and over and over in real life, long after the ride, where I'm ready to throw in the towel. I am done. I hate this. And then I stop and say, we don't quit on a bad day.
Hmm. Yeah, we don't. Indeed, we
Yeah.
don't. Exactly.
You know,
Uh,
I'm going to wait and see. Like, I now know that this was a bad day. Is it consistently bad? Is it no longer serving me? And if the answer to that is yes, then by all means, I'm letting that go.
I mean, this
But you don't do it when you're angry, right?
right, right, right. And I think this is when you taking care of yourself uh can come into the picture. Like you're angry,
Absolutely.
easy. You're hungry, let's get a burger. And then of course you can have a clearer decision on
Right.
what's next. And like this is vital information, and thank you for that. Although like I'm a very fun interviewer asking all about the bad things, right? So now I want to
You
ask.
know, bad things are kind of funny though too.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
definitely.
sometimes they can be funny when people listen to them. Like my husband and I had very few arguments, but we had one. And
Okay.
the argument, when you look back on, I mean, at the time it wasn't funny. There's nothing funny about arguing with someone you love, but when you look back on it, it's actually quite humorous. I said something, I don't know what I said. I was being snarky. I was probably tired and hungry and whatever. And now we're riding. He's not friendly anymore, right?
Okay.
He's not speaking to me.
When
He's
does
not
this
purpose.
happen? Did this happen after this Montana
I
scene?
think I think we were in Montana, but I don't
Oh,
remember.
damn,
I'd have to go.
Montana! Like,
Yeah, Montana. Everything happened in
what a
Montana.
wife it has.
Yeah, but we weren't speaking. When he's in the front. He's normally a very kind driver in the front. This time I felt like he was hitting bumps and didn't care, like those kinds of things. And
Uh-huh.
we stopped at a Dollar General to get some snacks. And I thought to myself, I'm not getting back on the bicycle until we fix this. This isn't fun. I've got a bathroom, I've got food, I've got drink. I can walk inside for air conditioning. I don't have to go anywhere. So we finish eating our snack, and he comes over and he's still very grouchy. And he says to me, "Come on, let's go." And I said, I'm not going anywhere. And he got this look on his face. He says, "What do you mean you're not going anywhere?" I said, "I'm not getting on the bicycle until we fix this." And he said, "Fine, let's fix it." I said, "Yeah, I don't think you're ready." And I walked down the sidewalk and sat down. And about 10 minutes later, he came over, and I could see just by the way he carried himself that we were going to work it out. And he sat down and he said, "Yeah, you're right. We need to work this out." He explained why he was angry. I apologized for what I said. We talked about the fact that sometimes when we're riding and things are tough, that I get a little snarky, and maybe he needs to give me a little leeway, and I'll try to watch my mouth a little more, and we'll see if we can't make this work. And it was over. And it's funny now to talk about it, where I told him, "Oh no, I'm not getting on the bicycle." But at the time it wasn't funny. So no, talking about the tough stuff, I think, can be really funny too, when you then
Exactly.
see the other side of it.
And also, I'm very grateful that you're directly, touching these subjects because I believe that we need to. I mean, direct talk is it can be curing. Can be something that
Yeah.
we don't bullshit. We take it into what the spotlight. And just a random fact about you: you were born in Greece, in Athens.
Yes. Yeah. My dad was in the Air Force.
And you also I read it that I mean I don't know if it was you or someone else that said that you were an Air Force brat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So an Air Force brat is when you're the child of a man in the Air Force or a woman in the Air Force. And
right.
yeah, so my dad was in worked at a joint Air Force base in Greece that doesn't even exist anymore. And I was actually born in a Greek hospital, not a base hospital, because there wasn't a base hospital. And I loved that as a kid. It was my favorite thing because it made me special.
Right.
All of my other friends, we're living in Ohio, and all my other friends are born in Ohio, and I was born in Athens, Greece. And it made me, I don't know, it just made me something like almost like a superhero in my own
Unique.
mind,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And do you
Yeah.
speak the language?
No, I do not. I left there when I was two. So
Okay.
at
Okay. It's
at
pretty
at
unique.
two, at two, apparently whatever words I had in English, I also had in Greek.
I see. I see.
But once you leave that,
Yeah, you're
the only
not
thing the
practicing.
only thing I can say now is kukula, which means baby. That's it.
Okay, that's very good. We have time for one more question. Uh,
Okay.
so all in all, I think that what you did, you know how much chance I have to do the same. It's right on my t-shirt.
You zero.
And the other thing is that we've touched upon many things. Can you tell me the most bizarre or the funniest or like the weirdest thing that happened on this journey?
Yes. So it was early in the morning. It was a Sunday morning. We went, by the way, during 2020, so it was COVID summer. So there was a lot of things that had to happen differently because people didn't let you inside, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So we were in Montana. Everything happens in
Everything
Montana.
is Montana.
Everything happens in Montana.
Feel Montana already.
Yeah. But we stopped at this, I don't know, it was like a pub and a hardware store and a, fix your hot water heater kind of place, and they served breakfast and they had these picnic tables outside, but they also had a pub inside. And we're sitting outside eating, I think, just like a biscuit or something, just getting ourselves a little bit of something to eat. And this man comes over, and I have to remember it's COVID and everyone is staying away from one another. And he came over and sat down directly across from us, and so it was kind of like, okay. And he was definitely intoxicated. Now, it was maybe 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. I'm not sure if he was still intoxicated from the night before or if he had just gotten an early start, but he was obviously very intoxicated. And he's asking about what we're doing because it's obvious we're doing something with a
Right.
tandem bicycle and a trailer and everything else. And so we're letting him know. And I'm kind of like looking over at Bruce, like, I don't know about this guy. And all of a sudden he leans in and he says, I've seen Bigfoot.
Wow, what a random fact.
And I said, oh, and he said, yeah, me and my buddies were out in the woods. And he gives this whole description, at which point I'm kind of casually standing up. I'm getting my helmet on, Bruce gets his on. And then we say, well, we gotta go. But this guy honestly believed that he saw Bigfoot. And so that was pretty interesting.
No, it's never like the sober guys or girls telling
No,
this, right? Why is it?
right.
Like
I
they
don't know.
I've seen UFOs back in the yard, and
Yeah,
it just smells. I don't know what kind of alcohol all the time, all the
right,
time.
right. In
It's
fact, the other funny one we had was there was a group of Native Americans. So we were right on the edge of a reservation and we were staying in a city park. And all of a sudden there was a group of Native Americans. They started a drum circle. They were very highly intoxicated and they're singing. Apparently, one guy comes over to tell us that they're singing songs about our journey to help us along the way in our
so
journey.
nice.
But he came over and he saw our trailer and he was insistent that we must have small children. And we kept saying, no, 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 it's just he and I. And he thought we were homeless and had our children in this trailer. And he's so intoxicated and he reaches into his pocket and he gives us all of his money, which was 67 cents, in
Wow.
order to help us with our children that we didn't have. So yeah, we had some.
This is crazy. Now, this is the thing I really love, like this is so random. How
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's very
67
nice.
cents out of his pocket.
Nonsense.
But and in a lot of ways though, isn't that amazing? This
It's
man only had 67 cents to his name and he gave it to us because he
exactly
thought we were in need. So
right, right. What
yeah,
a generous I don't know approach.
right.
Well, Terry, thank you so much for being on the show. How was it? How was this
Oh,
conversation?
I love it. I absolutely love talking about the journey that we took and all of the even the bad parts were good when you look back on them.
Right,
Even the
right.
parts that were so tough, when I look back on them now, I realize that they made me. They helped me figure out who I was again. And so every single part of it was exactly what I needed to have.
So if there's one last thing you would advise to our listeners or whoever is looking watching us, what would you say?
I'd say get rid of your bucket list
Mhm.
and go do it instead. So
Okay.
look at that bucket list of yours. What is on it that you really, really want to do? And then find one thing today to move you toward that, even if it's something small, because you would rather leave this world doing something than leave this world with a whole list of things you wish you had done.
Yes, yes. So, kids, this is the homework, and thank you again, Terry. And I wish you, loads of great experiences and journeys, whether it's inner or like a traditional journey. And then, yeah, thank you for being on the show.
And the
Thank you so much for
moon
having
went
me.
home, but we still got a signal right through your phone. Hallelujah. Hey. They took our books, our brains, our common sense too.